Sorry, you've accidentally come to the wrong place, and I would jog on while you can before we get into episode 5, New Year's resolutions. This is the TAFY podcast, and we've just recorded this in the first week of 2021, which is off to a fantastic start. We're here again to ramble through topics under the pretense of making an informative podcast. We tackle resolutions and goals. Why do you wait for the 1st of January? Do they work? And we discuss a little bit of a few of our tactics on how best to make them work. There's also the ever-present meal deal dilemma that has plagued every single episode so far. So, no housekeeping items, still no sponsors, and even fewer chances of staying on topic. This is the TAFY podcast. Great timing on the yawn. Thanks.
I did mute my mic for the burp, though.
Well, way to highlight it there. Thanks. Thanks very much. I went over and above to disguise this from everybody, and then I'll just mention it.
It's 2021, everybody. It's a new year.
Yep. New year resolutions. Yeah.
What a segue.
That was pretty good. So, has anybody made any? Does anybody ever make any?
I mean, I don't write them down. I don't make a thing of them. So there's no proof.
No commitment.
Exactly. It's great.
I'm accountable to no one, even myself.
Even past me hates me.
If I forget, I can't fail.
Oh, that's terrible. I might have failed already then if I've forgotten.
Yeah. I always used to joke at school that I'd made a resolution not to make any more resolutions. In fact, I've never actually made a resolution, so it was kind of a lie even then. I've made this year. I've maybe tried it. I'm going to try it. I wouldn't have called them resolutions, except it's really timely. It just happens to be now. But that's coincidence rather than anything else.
That was one thing I've got on my list. You know, why 1st of January? I mean, it obviously has to be 1st of January to be a New Year's resolution, but you can set a goal at any time. But why do we latch on to this?
That's my objection to New Year's resolutions. It feels like the day it starts on Monday kind of thing. It's just putting it off. It's not really starting a new thing. It's putting it off until next year to start it.
A lot of them will be, we've had our Christmas, we've had our New Year celebration, we've put weight on, I need to get rid of it. Let's go to the gym. Let's take up exercise. Let's start this diet now. Now we've had our fun over Christmas. I imagine that's where a lot of it comes from.
Oh, wow. Gyms must be having a bad year. They normally must get so many people sign up in January. They never turn up anyway, but they're not going to get that massive boom.
This year, I'm going to endeavour to stay at home more. Even more than 2020.
I'm going to stay at home 25 hours a day.
120% we're going for this year of my time will be spent at home. Yeah. Yeah, the gyms. Goodness. I used to gym.
I never got on with gyms. I think I've been to 3 in my life. One of them I was filming there, so that's getting paid to do it, not just like sneaking in and going, hello. It's all right, Jack was with me.
Where was that?
That's definitely not better.
What was that? It was the basketball stuff.
Rooms?
In where, sorry?
The basketball stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, but that wasn't like a gym. That was like a...
No, we went into the gym.
It won't make sense on any transcripts of this podcast. But, the emphasis was... It was like
screw deaf people. Let's just make this as hard to understand as possible from the transcript.
Let's not. We used to, me and the missus used to gym, went before we had kids, when we were like real runners, like 5k, 10k people.
See, I've run on 2 treadmills in my life, and I have hated every single moment of it.
Was one of those in each of the 2 gyms that you weren't paid to be there?
Yes.
Oh, then 3. You've run on my treadmill.
That's not a gym. That's
It's a treadmill.
Makes it
yeah.
a
Well,
gym.
yes.
Look, check the transcript. I'm going to get the transcript.
Fine. Yeah, it's not like I committed to that. I was just like, mate, this is a treadmill. I'll try it out. It wasn't like I'm going for a run on this treadmill.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
mind. I don't mind the treadmill.
It seems pointless. Like most of gym exercise seems pointless. Like you sit there surrounded by lots of other sweaty people on a bike that doesn't go anywhere, or on a treadmill that you're running and get nowhere. Like it seems pointless. I'd much rather.
Cycling.
Sorry, I can run on the treadmill there and justify it as like exercise time, but I'm just watching Netflix. You know, it's just I'm going to do an hour in the gym watching episodes of House of Cards.
Yeah,
It's dangerous to do that in the street.
I've never got into running, but I quite like running on the treadmill because yeah, I can not look like an idiot. Well, I mean, I might, but there are no witnesses, so tree in the woods and all that.
Just picturing like the 80s fluorescent
Mr.
headband.
Motivator lycra that I'm wearing.
Oh yeah. Now there's a visual.
You're thankful you can't see what we can see. Yeah, I don't mind exercise. Like I'm quite happy to go for a bike ride, or I play hockey, but I don't get the doing exercise for exercise point for the sake of exercise. Like going for a bike ride is usually me getting from A to B, or going with a friend and having some fun. It's not I'm doing this to get fit.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why quite a lot of these New Year's resolutions fail, isn't it? Because they say they set it as I'm gonna go to the gym like 4 times a week,
Mm.
and then like that first week when you've too busy and something else doesn't happen, and you're like you end up only going 2. You're like, oh, I failed already. I have to wait a whole year until I can start this thing again.
Yeah, and most people that go to the gym don't like exercise, especially the New Year's resolution people. They're doing it to try and get fit. They're not doing it because they enjoy going to the gym and enjoy exercise. They're doing it for a purpose. Like they want to get fit. I want to be able to lift so and so, or run a marathon or whatever. It's not, oh, I'm doing this because I really enjoy lifting weights, which some people do, and fair play to them.
Yeah.
It's not something that I ever think is pleasurable.
No, it's well, this kind of gets me onto this like goal setting approach that people make. It's like you're not really told how to do it. Just think, oh, a New Year's resolution, right? I need to get fitter, lose weight, eat healthy, better me, blah blah blah. But it's not really anything measurable, and so you can't see any progress.
Well, some things like if you, like losing weight, there's a fairly easy way to measure that. Being able to run further, faster is measurable. But
you're completely wrong. That's what
is what he's saying. Yeah, I see your argument there.
It's a really nice way, though.
It's a pretty strong argument you've got there.
But is it a better you? Are you a better person for being able to run 5 miles rather than 3 miles? That is a much more deep and philosophical question.
Yeah.
If you feel happier and therefore act happier and are a better person to those around you, then yes. But if it just turns you into someone who is, I'm going to run faster, I can run faster, this is me going faster, I'm going to be faster than you, then, maybe not.
Given that most people, I think it's official, most people in the country are overweight, then being able to run a bit further is probably, on average, better for everybody. The the people I see running are divided into kind of two groups.
There's
The
those
ones
that
who
can
are-
run.
Yeah, and you see very few. It could be
Yes.
because they're really fast. I don't know. It's probably because maybe they go really early or really late. I don't know. But I see very few people out running who look like they enjoy it. Almost none, and who look to be in good shape. Again, very few. But you see a lot of people out running who it looks like they've just started. I don't know if there's a rolling stock of people who've just started running.
I mean, there must be.
I think there is. I think there's like a
know,
high injury rate, isn't there? It's like 79% of runners get injured in the first.
But also, you can only start running once.
How long do you have to stop before you can start again and it counts as a new starter? I definitely like running on the treadmill, but I tend to go for it a bit too much when I start, and then my calves get tight, and then I stop, and then I get out of the habit. It's just a routine. If like I said, I quite like running on the treadmill, and I'm quite happy to watch a bit of Netflix. I could do it every day, but then I tend to run a bit faster because I don't really like to walk on the treadmill because it's just really awkward. I don't know. I don't like walking on it. So then, things get tight, and I just stop doing it, and I don't do it again for a year.
I find I'm pretty good at things that are routine. If I have a routine, and I tend to just carry on with it, because it's like a habit, but it's a good habit. I'm pretty good at getting into habits, and good or bad, you know. But I went through a phase. I've just been obsessed with quitting stuff. It's like it suddenly became very easy to quit stuff. I was like, I'm
going to take this up just so I can quit.
Yeah. Hey, there's a New Year's resolution. I'm going to take up smoking so that this time next year I can quit.
I'm going to put on some weight so I can lose it next year.
I've been doing that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while. A routine seems to work for me. I know it's not everybody's thing.
Yeah, I'm terrible at routines. I don't find them easy to fall into or stay in.
I'm completely the opposite. Like if I could get away, like eating stuff, choosing what to eat for lunch, it narrows itself down to two options.
Don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. Matt, turn your ears off.
It's an existential crisis every time.
What to do with
Excuse me,
the
sir,
meal
you've been
deal?
stuck in the sandwich section for 2 hours now.
I just can't decide if I can decide or not.
Can you just take some things off the shelf for me so I can?
Well, maybe you could use some of my approach, because I basically have one of two things for lunch every day. It's pretty much the same thing, because that's what I have for lunch. So, which isn't exactly healthy, but hey.
I'm somewhere in between the two of you. Then I find it hard to get into a routine, but once I'm in a routine, I can really stick in it. It's just I'm not very good at getting into one, but when I do find that I have one, it's more of a habit than a routine. I guess it's things form, and I tend to do them. But yeah, I'm not good at deliberately getting into them anyway.
Mm-hmm. But circling back to just before Ryan decided I was wrong, in every respect.
Only most.
I think
It's not just what you said; it's the way you said it as well.
Yeah, it was all wrong. So yeah, fitness you can't measure is basically what I said there.
Yep. Yeah, we all agree on that.
Which is right. Maybe what I'm trying to say is, like, the way people set their goals, like the way they frame it for themselves, is not the best way that they should measure it. If you see what I mean. So, like, rather than saying I'm going to lose
2 stone,
whatever that is in new money. Yeah. Oh, we're Brexited now. We can use stones and pounds and ounces, can't we?
Yes. Yeah.
We must.
Apparently,
Yes.
we must. Anyway, But like, rather than saying I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight, and yes, you can measure that progress, but it kind of fluctuates, then, doesn't it? So maybe
Also, weight is a terrible thing to measure your fitness by. Like, if losing 2
exactly.
stone is not necessarily a good idea, because apparently I could lose 2 stone and still be in the acceptable weight for my height thing.
Oh,
But
the
I can't
beamy.
imagine losing 2 stone off my body.
That's a leg. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the gymnasts that Katie coaches, I mean, if they go to the doctor and
They're
they
underweight.
sometimes weigh them at school, they tell them they're overweight.
Yeah.
And they're tiny, but they're solid muscle. It's a really blunt measure. But I mean, there are definitely things you can measure, but it's just a little bit complicated.
But my point is, like, their goal is to lose weight, which as
Rather than
you
gain
say,
fitness.
yeah, exactly. Like, you could set it, and it also doesn't help you form any kind of habit or routine to say I will lose weight, which means, oh, I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to do this, which then, rather than, I read somewhere, like, to frame them in a positive way, you don't do negative stuff when you're setting goals. Like, I saw one was to fall in love with running was like their aim. So that it wasn't I have to go out every week. It's that, oh, this will get me excited about going running. Oh, this particular route will be interesting to go and run. And they can do it at any pace they wanted, but in general, they found the joy in doing it, and the fitness and the weight loss was a byproduct of the way they framed their goal. Like if you set a resolution which was, I am not going to spend as much time on YouTube this year, like, it's already in a negative, and they don't work as well apparently if you frame them negatively.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can be maybe a little bit harder to do, I guess, to find the right way to phrase that. I mean, if you say you don't, when you say you don't want to spend as much time on YouTube, you probably mean you want to spend more time reading, or more time learning, or more time paying attention to your kid, or whatever. It's
Spending more
probably
time
what
on
you
Netflix.
really mean. Yeah, more time on Netflix. You probably just less time feeding the beast is what you're saying, which I'm all on board with. So. But it is tricky, isn't it? I think things like park runs are probably a bit too popular for my liking, but they seem to really motivate people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, is for a lot of people it's easier if they have somebody else to motivate them and almost be accountable to.
I think that's a good idea. Writing them down, maybe, so you remember what they are, and telling other people is probably
I was
a really
going
good
to say,
idea.
yeah, writing them on somebody else's piece of paper rather than your own.
Yeah, maybe even putting your money where your mouth is. I read the guy who wrote The Black Swan, Nassim Taleb. He, in one of his books, Skin in the Game, he talks about that, and I can't remember what it was, but he made a bet, and it was a bet for real money. Like, it should be the amount of money that you'd feel. So it should be, you should tell your, I don't know, tell your kids you're going to do this, and if you don't do it, then you'll give them £1,000 each. I mean, the kind of thing that's really going to hurt you enough to be a proper motivator.
Well, it's like I used to be fairly good at running at school, but I always, like, everyone's like, oh, you should try like half marathons and marathons. I was like, nah, like, I'm fine. Like the only reason I would ever run a marathon is if somebody asked me to train with them.
That's why you run a marathon, isn't it?
And that is why I ran a marathon a few years ago, because somebody asked me to train with them. Like, damn it! So I had to put my money where my mouth was then. Like, I've gone however many years with this being my principle, and now, someone's called me out on it. But I would never want to do it again. It's boring.
I can see that kind of thing is a good motivator, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about going cycling again in the summer, the NC 500. So that's going to be 500 miles in about a week, or probably a bit longer. I don't want to rush.
And we have done that sort of distance before, so
Yeah.
it's not a out of the
And I know I'd survive it, but I'd like it to be enjoyable.
pleasurable.
And I've done very little for a while, so I don't know. I was thinking to myself, well, that's 500 miles in a week, so maybe the month before I should be able to cycle 400, the month before 300, the month before 200. I don't know. I've not really worked out how to. I
Do
think
that
in the end,
training,
I'll just go
yeah.
out on my bike a bit because I like cycling, rather than having any kind
Yeah.
of plan. But I'm thinking about what a plan might be if I had one.
But things like if you're cycling through beautiful scenery, you don't
Yeah.
want to have your head hanging down because you're out of breath, not be able to look at it.
Yeah.
You want to be able to enjoy the scenery. So that's a great
Oh, yeah.
motivator to
Yeah.
go like, right, I'm going to this beautiful part of the world. I want to be able to see it and appreciate it. Therefore, I either have to take a car or or I
Yeah,
have
and
to be
what
fit enough to be able to cycle up it without constantly staring at the stem.
yeah, the floor, yeah. What I'd like to do is to be able to cycle half days over, say, 10 days or so, and have the other half day with Katie and the dogs and sightsee a little bit. So I need to be fit enough that I'm not totally horrible in the afternoon.
If you took the recumbent, you wouldn't be looking down all the time. Well, it depends how often you
That's
fall
true.
off.
Staring at the sky.
I'll be staring at the sky, lying on my back on the floor.
I was going to say, the last time Matt went out on his recumbent,
It was also the first
I
time.
ended up staring at the floor. after Matt's kamikaze attempt on my life.
I've cycled a grand total of, it's about 25 miles to Sylvia and back along the old railway line. So I've cycled a grand total of 24 and a half miles. And I'm starting to get a bit of confidence, and I'm even a little bit of arrogance. I'm thinking about no hand in it. I mean, my feet are kind of pretty near the steering. I'm swerving a bit. I'm thinking, yeah, I can cycle past these people without having to be super cautious now. And then this mountain of a pebble that was that Ryan didn't see, and I couldn't find afterwards to prove existed. But there was a pebble that, that knocked me off. I didn't fall very far. It only hurt because then Ryan ran me over. He was just behind me because I was going
Similarly,
so.
I was getting fairly confident in Matt's ability, you know. So I wasn't 20 meters behind him with my hand on the brakes. I was next to him.
Well, there's a New Year's resolution right there. I will cycle in front of Matt.
I mean, that's usually not an issue, but yeah.
Ooh, wager. Money where your mouth is kind of a fair now.
To be fair, Matt's probably cycled further than I have in one go recently.
I've
I've done lots of little bits, but I haven't done.
I've not done anything much yet. Just as I got my bikes all cleaned up and ready to go.
Yeah,
it
but
was
even
kind
within
of
the last
icy.
5 months, I think you've cycled further.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I cycled to the beach a couple of times last year. 40, 50 miles. It was not. I did not look good at the end of it. It wasn't. It was a survival.
You mean you look worse at the end of it than you did at the beginning?
But not worse than you, but yeah.
Oh, okay,
Although to be fair, I did do 13 miles, and the first 10 of that are uphill. on my commute, the little train wasn't running, so I had to cycle. And yeah, the profile of that route is 10 miles uphill, 3 miles straight downhill.
You undo
Brutal.
all the climbing.
That's steep.
Not quite, I don't think, because you start fairly close to water level.
So I don't have a resolution exactly to cycle more, but I do have in mind that I'm going to go for a big bike ride in the summer, hopefully. And I plan to cycle more between now and then to make it enjoyable. I just haven't quite come up with any kind of plan as yet. I cleaned both my bikes, not including the recumbent.
I've read conflicting like advice on that kind of thing. Like one person says, "Oh, you should have, like SMART goals, like the acronym SMART." Like I can't remember what it says, but like one of them is measurable and achievable.
Measurable, attainable. No, that can't, because I thought it was attainable and
Specific.
realistic. They're the same.
Specific,
yeah.
measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound.
Smarter as well. What does the ER stand for?
Smarter? I don't know.
Yeah.
Your goals need to be smarty pants. I could come up with another 6.
Evaluate, readjust.
Oh, I like that. They're good additions.
They admit that there will be some failure.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea to me.
Yeah.
Assuming we're not going to get it right first time.
Yeah, but then I read another thing where somebody's saying no, they shouldn't be this at all. They should be like vague, and still positive and everything, but they should be like should be vague, like that one. I'm gonna fall in love with running. That kind of thing should be your goal. So and they should be smaller. So rather than it being a big goal, like to do like a 500-mile cycle ride by September, whatever. There should be like smaller things that nudge you in the way of being able to do a 500-mile cycle.
I mean, that sounds like really your goal is to cycle 500 miles, but that sounds a bit much. So you're going to pretend that your goal is to cycle 50 miles in a month.
10 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's too big a goal, you can't see any progress towards it, then you just kind of lose interest.
I don't know. One of my goals over the past couple of years has been to buy a house, and there's not really anything you can do other than buy a house. Like you can't mostly buy a house. Like I bought the top 3/4 of it, but I didn't want the bottom quarter, so I've left that with the other owners.
Buying it a brick at a time.
Does mean I've got to monkey bar it across the living room, but it's fine.
I don't know.
But yes, a lot of times goals have to be.
It's going to come down to who you are, isn't it? Really?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like as we said before, like I quite like routine, and I can stick to routine. But that's not going to work for I. So I'm a fan of the nudging ones. Like I have goals. I like setting goals. And one of mine is like last year, my fiction writing stuff, I set the goal of what's the word? Getting 6 rejection letters for my stuff. That was my goal. It was kind of measurable. I either do or I don't get 6, and I can see I'm making progress towards it, because that kind of works for me. I like progress. But the real goal was to write more and get better at writing, which wasn't that measurable. But it also kind of deals with the rejection angle a little bit.
See, I'm just too lazy, and I would just write, "This is my bit of work."
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you could game your own system if you want. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So like that sort of thing wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
Because I just find the easiest way of doing that.
That's why. Yeah. You'd know exactly what you meant because you said it.
Well, exactly.
But you'd still play with the words.
Yeah. I'm a terrible person to myself.
You're half right.
Yeah, but this year I've upped it to 12. I want to get 12 rejections.
Just give me a shout.
Reject. It doesn't count. It doesn't count for you guys. But I've nearly got one ready to send to you, Matt, again. That one we were talking about, the simulation one.
Yeah.
It's close. It's kind of ballooned into 5,000 words, which I'm not sure about, but hey, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
5,000 words you're not sure about.
Yeah. There's a few in there that I'm all right with.
Just excerpts from the dictionary.
Yeah.
Although I suppose in fact, every book is just that, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Just arranged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's finding them and putting them in the order that you need.
Yeah.
The thing.
I can't spell, so if I write something, often the words I use aren't in the dictionary.
Yeah, so my vague thinking for this year is try to be more organized with admin type stuff.
Been
So
a
I
problem in
spent
the past?
I'm self-employed, so tax returns are a thing, and I'm going to do it tomorrow. I am not going to wait until the 29th of January.
It's pretty good call.
Yep.
Measurable.
I spent a lot of today going through my calendar and organizing it into sections and different calendars rather than just one calendar.
That's something I was wanting to get on later. So I'll circle back to that after you've.
Okay. Yeah, and just being like more aware of when things need to be paid and stuff like I say with the buying a house thing. I'm gonna have to be responsible for paying bills at the right time and things like that. So yeah, just trying to be slightly more on top of and organized about admin type things in my life.
I've put the car insurance, even though it goes out automatically, I've put it on the calendar. So I can double check that they actually take the money and don't arrest me.
Why would you do something like that? Is that?
Yeah, who would forget to insure their car?
Are you just superstitious or?
Nobody forgets. They take the money, they email you and tell you you've got insurance, and then they don't tell you you've not got insurance. Supposedly they wrote to us. I'm not organized, but I do have a filing cabinet that all that stuff goes in, or more accurately, it goes on top of. I'm really surprised that I couldn't find that letter, because basically every bit of paperwork that comes in that doesn't say, that is addressed to a person goes on top of the filing cabinet to be sorted at a later date, which usually means at a time when I've been arrested for not doing something and I need to pay for it.
You have a filing zone. You have a one zone system.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Oh, cool.
It's it's two systems, because inside the cabinet it's ordered and it's organized, and on top of the cabinet it's chronological. That's the yeah.
Chronological of order in received, not necessarily of order sent.
Yeah. Yeah, and no.
Even order opened. Yeah.
Sometimes not opened. Sometimes they this looks like one of those ones that HSBC send me. I'll put it on the file. I don't need to open that. This looks like a payslip. Don't need to open that. Yeah.
Well, the thing I wanted to circle back to is like one thing I've got on mine is list making feels like progress. It feels like you're actually doing something, and that's a terrible thing. Like I see it online. Like you seen these bullet journal people?
Nope.
I've heard the name before.
So it was a system for writing down, for journaling, that was allowing you to be organized and to get things done, and it was really, really simple. Like you could just get any notebook and you can use this bullet noting system. Like some things are tasks, some things are like ideas, and they've got there's like 5 different symbols you can use.
Right.
And so I thought, oh, this is great. Something that's really simple. I don't need all of the guff and the specific binder to put it in and everything. And I can keep it organized and it just looks after itself. Great. But some people have taken this to a whole new level, and it's a whole new art form now, bullet journaling. And they've coloured pens in and how they highlight this, and they've drawn their own bar graphs for how much progress they're making on this. And it's all just, in my opinion, procrastinating. It's not necessary unless your aim is to produce something that looks really, really nice. I think you spend most of your time writing it out rather than getting on with the stuff that you're meant to be tracking.
See, that's interesting, that is. Because
good.
If we go back to...
It's first.
I've made it from you're wrong to that's interesting. So this is progress. Just let me journal that one. I'm going to write that one down.
What symbol do you need to use for that one?
A big golden asterisk the size of a page. Ryan said yes.
You probably want to focus on that. It says Star Award. It's a sticker.
Thank you.
It's very small. That feels like a conflicting message.
Yeah.
You're a star. A tiny, tiny star.
Revision. We go back to when when revision was a thing in our lives, whether we ignored it or did it.
No.
Some people's revision notes are like you're saying, like they're full of different colors, different symbols for things, all very neatly organized, all arranged in a very specific order. I don't know how much it helps. Because I think it's more the act of writing it out that actually helps it sink in.
Yeah, you never read them again. Or at least I didn't. If I wrote something out, it was useful, but I'd never read it again. What I find is people tended to revise things they actually know already. I think there's something comforting in that. Like just outside of the exam, there'd always be people talking about things that clearly they already knew. It's pointless. I mean, if you're going to last minute cram something, learn something you don't know.
The thing I learned from university about revision, having done it wrong for so long, is that you just have to do the past papers. Just cram as many past papers as you can, because the stuff that you don't know will come up, and so you're forced to learn stuff. But also you get a handle on the format and the kind of questions and that kind of stuff. So you learn more than just the material. And you learn how to answer the questions, which.
But that's not necessarily the best thing in the world.
No.
Like, possibly more so at university, where things are actually targeted and possibly even real world situations. Whereas A-level and GCSE, you learn how to answer the paper, and that teaches you nothing for the most part.
That's kind of the whole education system model, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Well, it certainly was when we were there. In education. Sorry, attended education.
Attended the place of education.
Yeah, we were surrounded by education.
On all four sides.
Some of us may have soaked some of it in as it passed by.
Osmosis.
Yeah. But no, but there's a definite thing about writing a list that feels like I'm doing something worthwhile.
I only generally write lists when I need to remember things.
I mean, like to-do lists kind of stuff.
Oh, I don't do to-do lists for personal stuff anyway.
I do sometimes. I certainly, at the end of the day at work, and definitely on a Friday, I like to write down what I'm doing and vaguely what order I'm going to do it in when I come back. That's like so I can completely forget. I can shift context into like I'm not working anymore and come back to it and find it all. And it doesn't dwell on my mind then if I've scribbled it down somewhere.
So that's why I said for personal stuff, for work things, I do have lists of things that need to get done and stuff. More so so I don't forget things. But also working with other people, it's handy to have a joint list that people can work from and make sure things get done and people don't do things twice.
I'm not disputing that they're useful and that there's a place for them. I'm saying that when there's a level of list making, particularly around like New Year's resolutions and goals and that kind of stuff, when you've got the brand new notebook and you're writing it down in the front page of this thing and it's all in nice writing and nice pretty colours and you spend an hour writing down this kind of stuff, it's like, right, I've done something really worthwhile. I'm all set up for this year now. It feels like you've done something. Like, and you could feel good about it.
Yeah.
I think it's a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
In fact, I'm putting this list making feels like progress thing into my collection of ideas for our own self-help book. Like we're gonna bring out a self-help book, the TAFY self-help book.
Self-help or self-hindrance?
Yeah. A group hindrance.
This might help you. However,
of self-help.
Yeah, how to help yourself by setting other people back.
You'll look great with these few handy tips.
That is the title. That is the title right there. Brilliant.
It's all relative. That's my.
Yes, Matthew is our star employee. Mainly because everyone else is shit.
He was the only one that didn't test positive for drugs.
He's also the only one that volunteered to administer the tests.
We like his work ethic. We don't like his work.
Oh, one thing I saw. I actually wrote a list down for this one. Can you tell?
Did it feel like you were doing work?
Yeah. I felt like I did something. It's on the little tiny post-it. So it's not all pretty. It's in my scribble. I saw this. Well, it was another podcast. I won't mention it because we're not affiliated.
Yet.
We'll be affiliated with it. We'll be the Amazon Prime of the podcast world. We'll be all up in everyone's business.
Yeah.
We'll feature people. They'll come and join us. We'll go and join them. It'll be amazing.
Our special guest today is
Kermit.
Hey Kermit. Hey Bert. Hey
Anyway. It was this sports psychologist talking about like when he works with athletes, and it was specifically about paragliding. It's a paragliding podcast, obviously. And he was talking about how he works with some of the athletes, and he has this approach. He says he doesn't tell people what they should be doing. Like they come to him, it's like, oh, I want to do better in this particular event. You know, what should I do? He says, well, and he does this like scoring yourself 1 to 10 on a certain thing. So if your goal is to be more fulfilled, to feel more fulfilled in life, he says, right, or where are you now on a scale of 1 to 10? You know, 1 being terribly unfulfilled and 10 being perfectly fulfilled in life. You're like, well, probably about a 7. So he says, okay, so what does 8 look like in your life? To be an 8, what would your life look like? And so people are like, oh, okay, well, I'd probably be spending more time with the kids and more attentive with the family and that kind of. And he carries on doing this. He's like, so what's a 9 look like? What's a 10? And so the people come up with the stuff that they need to do in order to reach this goal that they want. I thought that was quite an interesting tool, because you can self-administer that kind of stuff if you're self-aware enough.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, obviously some useful, actionable information from the TAFY podcast.
I just wonder if you want to do something different. I'm decided that no one's capable of change is where I'm going to start with. Because if you wanted to do something different, then you would do something different. And if you don't really want it, or you're not the kind of person who can commit to it, then you won't do it, and you already wouldn't have been doing it. I mean, time does pass, so things change, I suppose. But broadly speaking, if you failed last year,
time exists.
this is the motivational. But if you failed last year, you're going to fail this year. You could do yourself a favour. Don't bother. Eat a chocolate orange. I'm just reaching out for sponsors here.
Again,
just like a normal orange.
Okay, underneath there, I'm sure I had a vague point that.
I'm not so sure you did.
No.
Just
do you not think?
cynic.
I mean, from what you were saying though, like if people know what they need to do to make a change, then why aren't they doing it? Why will they be able to do it now if they weren't able to do it before? I'm just gonna let you pretend they have free will, and we'll carry on along that line. Not even get into the meal deal situation.
Yeah, it is just jealousy on your part. You think, other people, they don't really choose their own meal deals. They think they do, and they think they're better than me, is what you're saying there. And I hate the
Well, they're
world for
making a
it.
worse choice, but maybe are they making it or not? I mean, anyone who's not got the beefy monster munch has already failed.
I think, like, there's not a lot of information. Well, there's a lot of information about this kind of stuff, but there's a lot of conflicting information, and I don't think people are that well informed about how to go about changing stuff. You know, they think, like, you hear people like, oh, change isn't easy and you just have to get down to it, but you can make it easier on yourself. You can make it harder on yourself to change things. And if you're setting like negative goals for things, or they're kind of put down goals, like I won't be such a sad act at parties and be introverted, kind of thing.
Well, are you looking at us?
Aimed at no one in particular. And,
yeah, I'm not going
because
to
I think it applies to all of us. But anyway, like that's a kind of a negative, like reinforcing thing. You've already put yourself down to begin with, and it's not a feel good kind of thing. It sets the event up with some dread already of like, oh, I mustn't be like this again, and it just, you set yourself up for failure with that kind of stuff. So I think that there's a lack of information that people have.
Do you not think you would see through it if you said to yourself, I will be more outgoing and chatty at parties or whatever? I mean, you're you. It's not like you're pulling the wool over your eyes there.
Well, you wouldn't have to say it like that. You could set smaller goals, like
I will talk to somebody else that I don't know at a party.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be at a party.
No, sorry, Matt. I will go to a party.
Why? See, people can't change. Why would they?
I think that's the thing. Like the goals that you set, they have to be things that you really want. Because I think a lot of people set these, I'm going to be fitter because they see fitter friends, or I'm going to learn a language because I see so and so has done it, and that was some kind of improvement. That's a better, that was they're a better person because of it, so that'll work for me. But if they've no interest in learning a language, genuinely learning a language, then they're not going to stick to it anyway. So if you're not interested in going to parties, then yeah, it's not going to be on your goal list, and there's no point walking the path, of being able to go to parties.
Like, I will learn another computer programming language.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
See, yeah.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
See, you could set things like that, and you could set smaller goals and things along the way. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how to do it.
How do you think that we should change that as a society?
If I had the time, yeah, I'd go out there and do the superhero thing and save people's lives. But it's not going to happen. That's it. I'll do it tomorrow. On the list.
I can't. I'm doing my tax return.
Oh, yeah.
I guess one of the things we do as a society is we have this idea of New Year's resolutions. I mean, there's loads of Weight Watchers capitalize on that sort of thing.
Gyms have special offers on in January.
Yeah. Maybe. And the idea of nudges to encourage people to make positive changes and to make it easier and to frame them in a positive way.
So take away the crisps from the meal deal.
From the meal deal. Oh, I don't have meal deals anymore. I don't leave the house.
We've replaced our meal deal aisle with like a Wheel of Fortune kind of buffet.
Wasn't there a no unhealthy food at the checkout thing that came into law recent?
Yeah. Because well, there's the thing, yeah, because advertising and marketing and that kind of stuff, that nudges people into ways of life, into certain habits. You can argue that some of it is kind of chemical. Like, you eat the the burger that's laced with sugar, and it's a feel-good thing that self-reinforces. So you get that feeling again by going back for that particular brand of burger, and like that makes you unfit, and you don't want to do anything else, so you feel sad, so you cheer yourself up by going for another burger, and it kind of keeps on going down and down and down, that kind of thing. I think there's a powerful way that people can hijack that loop, that feedback loop of like impulse. I think it's like impulse, action, and what was the third one? Reward. Like you have the impulse to have a chocolate biscuit, say. If you then act upon that, you reinforce that impulse because the reward feels good. So it's like, oh, that feels good. That strengthens that pathway between impulse and action. And that's kind of anything with any addiction. So I think people can hijack that loop and use it for positive things.
Marketing is a huge factor in a lot of issues with people.
I mean, like personally, like on an individual level, you can hijack that loop yourself and use it to produce good habits.
Yeah, I mean things like running, you get the endorphin hit, don't you, from running, things like that. If you persuade yourself to do it, then then everyone except Ryan enjoys it. Well, I mean, yeah, I can see not everyone, but you know, some people enjoy it and they get into it and they get the feedback loop that way. It's how you get from one to the other that I find difficult. You need someone to make you do it, or you need some external. The only way to change is to go and talk to someone at a party. That's the only way to change your behavior.
Oh, we started the podcast to kind of get out more and socialize.
Yeah, Matt's gonna love the special guest next week. Yeah, I can't say that I've ever felt an endorphin rush playing hockey.
You feel good afterwards for going?
No, I feel good in the bar afterwards.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I enjoy it during. I mean, I definitely.
I enjoy it, but I can't say there's. I suppose there must be something chemical happening in my head to say I enjoy it, but it doesn't feel like the reason that I'd go and play. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm thinking about cycling. The part of my difficulty with getting out on the bike is that I don't really enjoy the first hour.
Yeah,
I feel a bit rubbish for the first hour, and then I feel good after that. And if I go for a couple of hours, I feel great. But yeah,
then you got to get back home, and you're like, oh,
yeah, much rather to turn around after an hour.
I mean, when I said earlier, like I went through a phase of giving up stuff, and that was kind of an experiment. It was worthwhile, but it was a kind of an experiment in that hijacking that feedback loop, because the first thing I gave up was coffee. Yeah, it was coffee.
Because I remember.
Yeah.
Woo. Woo.
Yeah, it was pretty serious. It got to the point where if I went over on a morning, if I didn't have one within 2 hours of waking up, I'd start to get a headache. And if I missed one if I didn't have one up until lunchtime, I had like a full-blown migraine. And I'd been bedridden twice with it. Yep. And so it was obvious that it was a problem, but it wasn't a problem as long as I was having coffee. So, but then I had, it was like a bad cold or a mild flu or something like that I had. And so I was in bed like all day for one day. And so I didn't have a coffee. And so I had this migraine as well as the flu. I was like, oh, this is terrible. And I thought, well, I've already done like 24 hours. I might as well kick on through and see how far I can get out the other side of it. And I was bedridden, so I was forced into it kind of, but I decided to stick with it. afterwards. And it kind of worked out because I blamed all of the bad feelings I had. It took like 3 days to get over the withdrawal stuff from caffeine. But I remember I consciously, at the time, linked all of those bad feelings and everything to coffee. And so
when you got through the other side, it's like, I don't want coffee to make me feel that way.
Yeah, it was the problem. It wasn't the solution to it. So it was that kind of thing. And then I did a similar thing with sugar and added sugars. So I haven't had a cake for like, I don't know now, 2 years. I have had a cake. I've had an occasional like birthday and a Christmas cake, but nothing on the regular after every meal kind of stuff. So it was like hijacking that impulse loop. And
yeah, that makes sense. Particularly the coffee, I can see you had something external to kind of kick it off. You get a cold, and then if you can associate the coffee, as being the cause of it, not the cure, like you say, that makes sense to me. I can see how that could really work.
how do we use this to get you to a party?
Well, we've got to wait 2 years before parties are allowed again.
Yeah, in 2 years when they're allowed. I don't dislike parties.
I do.
But
I don't. I like a sort of relative. I prefer a small group
a
of
gathering.
It's more of a gathering than a party.
Is it about six people?
Yeah, about 6 people. Yeah.
Our entire social circle.
Speak for yourselves. I know 7 people.
We don't have enough points for a circle. We have a social hexagon. That's what we have. Man.
I can't honestly remember. It would have been university, I guess, the last time I went to what could really be called a party. People have parties now?
Online?
Depends on your definition of party, really.
Zoom party.
Anything online is not a party.
I've been to a couple of New Year's events in people's houses that have had like 20, 30 people in them.
It's not the party that gets me. It's the number of people and the loudness.
Yeah.
And if there's any kind of flashy lights or anything like that. It's all that. It's just, I find it exhausting being around a huge number of people.
Even when there were parties, you'd inevitably or inevitably be stood in the kitchen with the smokers. That's more or less where I'd end up.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. I don't mind going to them. I probably won't interact with 90% of the people there, but I don't mind being in places where loud noises and flashy lights are happening and people doing whatever they want to do. And I'm quite happy to just sit in a corner.
He goes
with
to
a drink.
better parties than us.
Yeah, obviously. Doesn't invite us along.
I go to parties.
Oh yeah.
He's afraid we'll embarrass him, I think. That's why he doesn't say, hey, I'm going to this party. It's of a manageable size. I used to go at university, we used to go out, obviously, and like clubs and stuff, which are obviously very crowded, very loud. Lots of flashy lights, and it didn't used to bother me that much. Because I was usually off my pace before we went out. But I don't know, I reached a point where it's just exhausting. Like being around a big group of people. And big group of people is probably like 10.
I'm not saying it's not exhausting, but I don't mind being in it in the moment. Yes, it'll probably take me a day or so to get my brain back into order. But
if I'm in that group, they just think especially if it's a group of people I don't know, it's like a new group of people. They just think
terrible.
they just think I'm a bit of a
He
rude
said, "Don't
person.
know you." Oh,
Yeah. They think I'm. They don't know it yet.
Yeah. It feels a bit presumptuous of them to think that already, doesn't it?
Yeah, but just because
But
I
also
don't really talk to them at all.
I like staying up late. I like the end of the parties where it's
Yeah,
just
me
a few
too.
people.
I like it when it's over.
Well, no,
yeah.
no, not before that though. Like when it's just a few people who it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're just talking about random things.
Yeah,
And
you
most
just have
people
to
have,
enjoy the
have
bit in
gone
between.
to bed or fallen asleep or whatever. And yeah, I really like that bit of the party where like everything's happened and it's just this is interesting now.
Yeah, and we've got our social hexagon. To be fair, it'd be a social triangle by that point. There'd only be us three.
Well, it was like my 30th, wasn't it?
Social square.
Yeah.
Oh, and Kevin Spacey. Yeah,
Yeah.
next week's guest.
Just to be clear for the podcast's sake, Kevin Spacey was what we named the broom that we
What
decorated.
you named the broom.
But there was definitely a team element there. I was vibing off of the group.
However, the greatest sport in the world was invented that weekend. There wasn't a weekend.
Oh yeah,
It was a
felt like
midweek
a
weekend.
weekend.
It did feel like a weekend.
What was the sport?
Tennis.
Oh dear. Oh, it was that bad. Jack had drank far too much.
Well, that's nothing new there.
You don't remember?
It was like beer tennis or gin tennis.
Oh, gin tennis. There we
Gin
go.
tennis. I can't remember the rules.
What?
Try not to break those things on that starting bog with the plates and stuff. That was the rule.
There were names for all these rules. I can't remember them, but there were names for them all.
You clearly remember this more than I do.
Which is surprising, since though people were spiking my beer with whiskey.
No, nobody does that. That's illegal.
It was Kevin Spacey. Don't worry.
Can't say
that. You can't say that, man.
You can't say that.
Oh, this won't make the edit. I get my yawns out.
On that note, I'm trying to wrap this up, so you just keep talking, and it does work.
What? New Year's resolutions?
New Year's resolutions. Some work, some don't. For some people, some of the time.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted.
Yeah. 30% of the time, they work every time. Kind of thing. So no, you're not convinced to do one this year, Matt? Other than your cycle, that's not really a resolution.
Having successfully made my pizza oven at the back end of last year, about November, I decided I was going to try and complete it within the year. So I don't think that could exactly be called a resolution for 2020. But I have a few things I want to do this year. I mentioned the cycling. I have been wild camping, but not for a really long time. I'd like to. I'm trying to do that again. If I've done it once, I'll be not unhappy. So low tag, achievable. That's
way to set it in the positive
one of my
frame.
smarter goals. Yeah. What's my positive frame?
I will not be unhappy.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's. I mean, you're trying to wrap up, so I'll bring something new up right now, because that's what I do every time, and then you cut it out in the edit. Yep. I read a thing, and I wish I could remember where, but the idea it said was a way of making decisions was to minimize regret, or to you could maybe more positively say to maximize how happy you would be with the decision afterwards.
Yeah. Well, yeah, quite often when somebody says, "Oh, do you want this or this?" for like takeaway or something, like, "Do you want pizza or do you want Indian or Chinese?" And someone goes, "Oh yeah, let's have Indian," and you go, oh, "I really wanted pizza."
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, you might not want to go out for a run, But at the end of the day, you might feel better if you'd been out for a run, and you already know right now that having been out for a run, you would feel better. So you can kind of make that decision based on what your future self will think of your past self, perhaps.
He was a dick.
He was a dick. What a dick.
And I think that's the end now. I think
That's
we've,
the end, yeah.
I think we've come to the conclusion.
That big pause. Big pause.
Like a bear.
Finally ran out of things to say.
Baloo.
Okay. That feels like a wrap up when people say, there, that's the end. So.
I mean, over to Matt, obviously, for any final conclusions.
No, we're done. Thanks.